So what is a frame jig and why am I building one? So a frame jig or a frame table is a flat and square surface that you can use to build something big like a frame. I'm sure you've heard people say that no concrete floor is flat. My floor is no exception. Not only do I have a few gnarly cracks in the floor, there's also a nice ridge right here. So there's about a 1/4 inch drop off right in the center of my floor. The frame jig will suck up all those imperfections in the floor and I'll have a nice flat surface to build this frame. I already have most of the pieces prepped and ready to go, so let's build this thing. The biggest challenge to overcome when building a frame table is building something square and flat off of a surface that's not square and flat. That's where these angle bars come in. These bars are going to limit how much the floor affects our bar because we only have 2 points of contact per bar. Also going to help with the roll because both these bars are laying on the flat surface of this bar. These guys are my leveling feet. The threaded rod and the nuts are set up like a jack screw, so then I can place these on the frame and use all 8 of them to make it level. All 8 of the legs are tacked up. Now I gotta place the cross members. I'm placing my cross members all under key points of the old frame. Specifically, the core support mounts, the front axle line, front cab mounts, rear cab mounts, rear axle line, and the back of the frame. I took a plumb bob, marked those out on the floor, measured everything out, and got my numbers. If you care to know, these are my numbers from front to back. I see the 0 on the front wheel center. Let's talk about that quick. Whenever you're building anything, you need to have a 0 point that you take all your measurements from. I chose for that to be the center line of the front wheels, and that will directly correlate to the center line of the new front stub. So my origin for the entire frame is going to be the Corvette front stub. We'll dig deeper into that in the next video when we start building the frame. At the end of the last video, you probably saw these guys on the rear end. These guys are a key part of making this whole thing work. The height of these is not random, it's actually taken off the wheel. So when you have these mounted up, it's holding the axle at the same height that the wheel and tire combo would. So from the center of the bolt pattern to the bottom is the radius of the tire, which is our ride height. So that makes the top surface of the frame jig basically the ground. With the hub mounts mounted up on our hubs, we can see about where the ground level is going to be. And the straps here are holding the suspension at about ride height. But right now, the whole front stub is sitting on a cart so I can roll it around. With both the plates on, it looks like my clearance to the cradle is going to be about the height of that cart. That's good information to know, because when I get the front stub onto the frame jig, I have to have something that's going to hold the cradle. So on the bottom of the cradle here, we don't actually have a very good mounting surface like I was hoping for. So this might have gotten a little bit more difficult. So I'm pretty sure I can make a bracket that can bolt into where the monoleaf used to be, attach to the subframe, be able to adjust it, or not the subframe, attach to the frame jig, be able to adjust it up and down, a little bit of forward, backward, and a little bit of pitch. Are those square? Do I assume that those are square? I don't know, that's dangerous. They're probably not. Alright, this is probably the best way to tell. So that's 1.5 degrees. On the other side here, we have the wheel mounting, or not the wheel, the the motor mounts. Those are about 2 degrees. There's also this machined surface here. That's about 2 degrees. 2.4, check this one again. 2. This thing's kind of all over the place. That kind of repeated. I don't know. I'm gonna think on that one for a little bit, but we can figure out what our rough ride height is. 5 1/4-ish. And that 5 1/4 was with the subframe sitting on about this surface, which gives me another 3/4 of an inch. So I got like 6 inches plus adjustment. My wheels are spinning. I think it's time to sit down with some CAD. I figured out a way that should work nice. Now we just gotta put it together. That's what I thought. What I came up with was a 2-piece design. We have the frame fork, which just slides over top of the frame, and the cradle mount, which will bolt up where the monoleaf was bolted on. The holes and slots will allow these guys to slide up and down, and I have a jack screw for fine adjustment so I can get it sitting right where I want it to be. Let's get these guys on the frame jig, and this thing's gonna start coming to life. The rear end and the C5 front stub are mounted. The front stub is being fully supported by the wheel hub mounts and those cradle mounts. Give you a closer look at the mounts. Again, just using that spring pocket. I did make gussets as well to brace these guys, but they're so strong with how collapsed this guy is that didn't need them. Once the front stub was set, the rear end was real easy. Just measure off the front wheel center, make sure that it's square and centered. Piece of cake. You can definitely see how unlevel the floor is. The far end's about 3/8 of an inch. These two are both about half. This one's about an inch. So you definitely never want to trust your garage floor for flatness. I didn't record the process of leveling the frame because it's pretty straightforward. It took me about a half hour to do it, and you just take your time, move the level, and slowly level the whole thing out. Now everything is ready to build the frame. Obviously, I'm not going to be using the C5 front horns here. They're big and bulky and ugly, and they're going to be a pain in the butt to try to tie the two pieces together. So I will be recreating all of that. But that's going to be a long and in-depth process, so we're going to save that for the next one. If you want to follow along, hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm LS Mitch. This has been Design Build Drive, and don't be afraid to get in the garage and build.